guys, so it's Saturday about 1 o'clock, and like every weekend, it's hard to get out here early. Pretty lazy about that. I haven't done anything with the harness, but I think it's good to go as it sits right now. Well, except for, I have to wrap that up. And I wanted to just ask a quick question. Corrosion in the terminals. How would you guys clean that up? It's kind of turning green in that one. That one looks okay. The irony is, this one I could replace because I've got this kind of connector new, and I've got the proper tool to crimp all that stuff, but this one I don't. So apart from taking it out and maybe trying to nickel plate it, which I could try and do, clean it up and nickel plate it, I don't know what I would do with that. Got another one here as well. That one's just grungy. I don't think it's actually gunged up. But in any case, I'm very nearly done with this. I think this is almost it for the wiring harness other than installing it. Thanks for the help on what this was. It was just what I thought it was, which was a terminal block, So I'm going to probably delete it because I don't really need it anymore, because the only things that came in here was these two connections, and now is these two connections, and the ABS used to come in here, but I already deleted all of that. My pile of remaining wires is pretty much gone. This is the interior light and the tail light wiring harness. So I will probably end up cutting up a lot of this because I won't be using the tail lights from the van, obviously. I'm going to be using some LED tail lights. In case you weren't sure, I am doing a flatbed with that thing there. And I'm going to be buying a bunch of LED lights and wiring them up. This is the front light wiring harness, and that, apart from if I have to lengthen any of the connections, which is entirely possible, well, it explains what that other connector by the fuse panel is. Apart from lengthening any of this stuff, I think this all works. I will wring it out and clean it up. That looks pretty oily there. But I'll wring it out and clean it up, and that's probably all I'm going to do with that. Oh, and I thought I'd just quickly mention that I did manage to eliminate the need for that bit of harness as well. So that was a completely separate piece, so that didn't require any modifications. So in any case, so my bin of wires I don't really need is increasing, but I'm going to hang on to them because it's nice to have all the variety of colors, so that if I ever need to make any splices in any of these harnesses, I got the right colors to correspond. Okay, what do you got on your head? There you go. It says, hey, you're out late. Anyways, later. Okay, before I started rewrapping this harness here, I decided I was going to start checking some of the continuity in this harness, and it illustrated one issue. I was looking at the glow plug connections first. First of all, I checked that power was coming to it from this lug, and it seemed okay there. It didn't seem to be high resistance, so I'm okay there. I was checking the output of the glow plug relay, and I was checking each of my glow plug wires here on this end, and they all seemed okay until I got to these ones here, and I had one that worked, so it means that at least up to this point where they split off, it's conducting, but at some of these ones here I couldn't, and you can see that they're really badly corroded, so I don't think it's too big a surprise that they're going to have to be replaced. So I'm going to have to find some replacements for these. It's not a typical design, but I'll see what I can find there. So, but those will be easy enough to replace when it's on, so probably what I'll do is, since those I may or may not solder, and it's not exactly a hard thing to solder on. One connection isn't that bad. When you're soldering, a bunch together like that, or like that, it's a pain in the ass and you really want to do it on the bench. But under the hood, that isn't really too bad. So I won't worry too much about that. I'll rewrap those. But I think what I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to just start working my way from the computer end of the harness, which really is any of these things here, starting here, and work my way around to the fuse box. and just wring out all the connections and make sure that they all seem to be good. And if they are at that point, then I'll figure out what I'm going to do to wash this harness off. Maybe I'm just being fussy, but clean it up somewhat, and then rewrap everything, and then we'll start looking at putting it in, I guess. Since I can't be bothered to redo a lot of this stuff, the reason why there was this giant grommet here is the harness is actually kind of set up weird. It plugs into the fuse panel at the firewall, and then all this wire distribution goes to the engine, and then at the far end of the engine, you know, basically right near when it comes looping back around to the transmission, it comes back up underneath the driver's floor, comes up through the floor, and there's where the computer terminates. And I think I'm going to use the same setup. I'm not going to try and redo this, because with that many wires, you're just asking for trouble. So I'm going to drill a hole in the floor of the truck and put the computer underneath the driver's seat there. But regardless, focusing on one thing at a time, wring out all these connections. One thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned was you'll notice that nothing electronic is connected or has ever been connected when I've been wringing out wires. No radios, no computers, none of that stuff is connected, because how this is testing the circuit is it's actually running a low voltage through it. So you don't want to take any chances with damaging anything. So make sure there's no electronics connected, and it also can give you misleading readings too if it's backflowing through a diode to another circuit that you're not interested in. In any case, on with what I'm doing here. Okay, so I've been at this for quite a few hours now, and believe me, this is tedious. I've rang out the lines from here to here in the harness. Now fortunately, that's all the major stuff. The only other thing I have to do at this end here is the tranny one. I have to wring that one out. That's going to be a nuisance. I'm using little pins. Notice that they are smaller than the diameter of the hole, so they're not going to damage it. But so far everything is rang out well, and the reality is that I've been thinking about it, and I'm going to still do it for peace of mind, but the reality is that if there is a problem, there's not going to be a lot I'm going to be able to do with it. I'll probably just have to run a line alongside the harness anyways, because trying to splice in, find where the problem is in this 8, 10, 20, 100,000 feet of wire here is going to be pretty difficult. Anyways, I should be done this today at least, and the other two that are sitting over there aren't going to be a big deal. So this is the majority, this is the last of the big bit of the work left to do, and then I'm done. So that's good to see. Well, the harness is pretty much nearly rewrapped. I'm putting tape every once in a while just to hold it closed, but it's not too big a deal. Everything rang out true that I tested. There were probably a few miscellaneous things I didn't test, like I didn't test any of these connectors, but these ones, as I recall, weren't used. And this is just going to, I think that's the manifold pressure sensor. No, what? See, I don't know what that one is, because it can't be manifold pressure, because once again, diesels don't have any, vacuum. They don't pull a vacuum. But that is connected to the vacuum pump, so maybe that measures the vacuum to make sure that your, oh, those are probably hanging. Yeah, they are. So that the EGR solenoids have vacuum, and somebody might want to disable EGR. So that might be a sensor for that. I'll have to look that one up and see, but I didn't test it because I was pretty sure that was going to end up getting pulled out of there if I can figure out how to do it without throwing codes. Anyways, I did find one thing when I started making my way back to the fuse block, and for some reason somebody had cut and spliced the wires for the that go to the speed buffer. So I don't know why they did that. I don't like just twisted wires, so I'm going to slip some heat shrink on, and I'm going to resolder those. But otherwise, this is very nearly done. At that point, I expect, I don't know what time it is, it's past 6 anyways, I might go and grab one of those harnesses and see what it's doing. And what do you think's going on? And just see if I can clean those ones up. As I shake a camera. That's the problem with zooming, is that you get the shaky cam. Any small movement is exaggerated in it. So I try not to use zoom unless you're on a tripod. But anyways, blah blah blah. See, boy, I do have ADD. Anyways, I'm going to resolder this, tape that, tape the end of this for a good part of this way just to cover it up and protect it. And then I think I'm done with this piece, and then I've got to figure out how I'm going to hang it there. I think some things are probably going to be a bit of a pain because, you know, things aren't going to go where they're supposed to. Like the washer pump, I don't think it's going to end up going where in a good spot. So it's better off if it's on the driver's side, but I think it was meant to go on the passenger side. Okay, it's done. I tried to lay it out so it would look neat, and that's impossible. It's just shambles. But nevertheless, it's all taped up. Oh, there was one thing I have to, yeah, I just have to retape this end of this one for the coolant bottle. Low temperature, or low level sensor, I think. And everything else is all ready to go. Clean this off a bit. All that goopy, greasy stuff that was on there. I'm not going to, well, maybe I will. I was going to say I wasn't going to rewrap the computer harness, but I can see it's been nicked right there. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just wrap over it rather than rewrap it, and I'll just do up to the computer right there, you know, that first terminal block. Apart from that, you know, the only thing I have to do with this harness now, other than install it, is sort out these glow plug, you know, terminals. Because they're all pretty much all of them are messed up. If they're not, you know, don't have a broken off end of a glow plug in them, they've got, they're badly rusted or broken. So I'll have to replace all those, but that's not that big a deal. Should be able to just crimp them on. With the current that's flowing through there, I'll probably solder them. Anyways, I guess I'll move on to the next thing, which is I'll do the front light wiring harness first. Okay, this is the front light wiring harness here. And it's got some problems. Now, some of the stuff is okay. This is okay. This to the speed sensor, speed buffer. The turn signals for the, which side is that? The left front marker here, of course. Yeah, the left front turn signals are okay. But the left headlight doesn't seem to want to work. The right-hand turn signals, the light to the marker, you know, portion of it, or the park lights works, and turn signal works, but the ground is no good. And that is okay. The marker is okay. Both markers are okay. And the driver's side. Right? No, that's passenger side, sorry. Passenger side headlight is also not working. And I also noticed that the horn wasn't working. And so I said, okay, well, test case, open up the horn connector, and you can see it's pretty badly corroded. And I didn't realize that the green corrosion on these connectors, that's non-conductive, or certainly it seems non-conductive, because there's no point on this connector that I was getting any kind of conductivity. So that's what salt does to things around here. So I'm going to have to replace a few of the connectors. I don't know what I can really do with those, but I wasn't going to reuse them anyways. I have to actually adapt to this type of turn signal. Now I can cut the connector off of these and make it work that way. I'd actually given half a thought to just cutting a hole in the back, you know, cutting a couple of slots to make this slip in and engage. But you know what? If I've got problems with these, I'm just gonna cut them off, trace them back as far as I can here, and cut them off and make it work. I'm sure that the ground actually is probably in the connector here. Actually, no, you know what? It's not in the connector. I actually did a little bit of investigation here. And the Y terminal at the bottom of these ones here is the ground, and they are actually connected to each other. They're just not connected to the ground. Now the ground is connected to these ones, but so somewhere in the harness between, you know, here, you know, all the way to back to that location, there's a break in the ground. It's probably pretty close to these things, nevertheless. But regardless, so there's going to be a fair bit of farting around with this one involved. But some of them work. You know, like that's a fairly long wire here to the proportioning valve warning light, and that works. But nevertheless, I do have replacement connectors for this, and these are just generic ones I picked up from Napa, and I'll just you know, cut back the wires and splice these in, and we'll be good to go there. And no worries. You can also get the marker light ones as well, but it turns out I don't need them. I bought them for another truck there with for a wiring harness. I'd actually bought a custom wiring harness at one point, and it's sitting upstairs. It'll go in another vehicle that's a little simpler than this one. Anyways, so what am I going to do now? Well, I think I've nearly had enough for today. So I might just knock off right now. Label the wires and knock off. I might peel this back and see if it's obvious where this ground might be broken, but it's kind of hard to determine it without actually breaking the wire. And I've learned, you know, well, with one vehicle I had, that any break in any wire, even a pinpoint is a bad idea, especially with the harness that's exposed to the elements, because it just corrodes. In one winter it corrodes and breaks the wire. Anyways, I think that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and it's much appreciated. And now, rate, comment, subscribe, as everybody says. Okay, well, here's just a quick follow-up to this. Look a little harder at the harness. There's a second ground that I guess is meant to be grounded close to the lights on the right-hand side, and that's what's connected to these ones. So these ones are okay. So the only thing that I have problems with now is the horn, which was the connector, obviously, and the headlight, which would seem to be the connector. So actually, I may be okay with this thing. So what I might do right now is I might just solder the headlight connectors in, and just go with it like that. And then I'm done for the day. And I'll have some nice fish from Scott's Pizza Burger, if they're not out of stock. Later, guys. Okay, just a quick second follow-up. I stripped off the connectors for the headlights here, and I just rang them out with the multimeter, and they're okay. So it was definitely the connector that was the problem. So these things were green, and they were toast because of it. So I got these ones. I'll see how well they work, but I don't think it should be a problem. Same pattern, of course, just wider connections. So I don't think it should be a problem. I could probably grab a headlight, but I think I've tried that before, so it's not a problem. Anyways, that really is it. Maybe. Later, guys.